Enjoy your coffee? I need hydration as well, you know?
And so to build the project, I'll be using this soil moisture sensor along with an ESP32 as a microcontroller, a PIR sensor, and this yellow jumper here is super important, but we'll get back to that in a second. I'll use an Amazon Echo device as a speaker, and finally, Home Assistant to link it all. Now this should work well even if you're using Google Home, so stick around until the end to know how. And now onto the wiring. So this is our microcontroller, the ESP32, and this is the PIR sensor. And we will start by connecting the ground pins together. And you can choose a single trigger or a repeatable trigger mode by switching this yellow jumper between low and high. I connect the power pin to 3 volt and that covers the power. Now the remaining pin is used to transfer data, so I'll just connect it to the IO pin number 33 for now, and I'll explain why I choose this pin in a few seconds. And next is the battery to power this setup, and I will be using a 2700 mAh rechargeable LiPo battery. Connecting it is pretty straightforward, ground to ground and red to power. And now onto the last piece of the puzzle, the soil moisture sensor. And this is the device I will be putting in the soil to measure how humid it is. The ground pin will be connected to the ground pin, but instead of connecting the power pin directly to 3 volt pin, I decided to connect it to a generic IO pin. The idea is to send a high voltage to that pin, which will power it whenever I need to perform a read. Then I'll just have to send a low voltage to switch it off between reads. And so I'm just following the wiring diagram we just did to connect everything together and see how it would work out. And now onto the code. So you can skip ahead if you're not interested in this, but I'm just going to give you a quick walkthrough anyway. So we start first by including all the libraries that we're going to use in the project. And one of the files that we will be including is called secrets.h. Now, it's in this file that you will be putting your secret stuff, like the Wi-Fi password, like the MQTT publish topic, your server, your password, and we'll see how we can configure those a little bit later. And usually an Arduino project has 2 main methods, a setup and a loop. A setup has the code that is executed when the Arduino starts, and a loop has the code that will be executed in a loop. But because I'm putting the whole device to sleep, there is no need to write anything in the loop. Instead, our device wakes up whenever it detects a movement, and then after that, it sends a high to the pin where the moisture sensor is connected. So it wakes it up, now it's powered. And when it's done, it will just send a low to switch it off. Between that, it does a read, it connects to Wi-Fi, it connects to Home Assistant, and then it sends a message to the MQTT server on Home Assistant. This value here might need calibration. For me, it's 1500. But it's up to you to try what is the number that means your soil is wet and at what numbers it becomes dry. This of course depends on your plant, on the region you're living in, the humidity in the air, and a lot of things. So we got everything connected, we got the code ready, now it's time to plug it to the computer, compile the code, upload it onto the device, and see how it all works out. It is connecting. Sometimes on these ESP32 devices you have to push that button in order to make the device recognizable by the computer. And you see already the dry there, it means that it's already trying to read and it was dry. Now I'm just gonna put it into the water and you see that the dry changed into wet. Take it outside, it's a dry. I knew this would look way better in a case, so I went onto Thingiverse, I found this case here, so I just downloaded it, opened it with my 3D slicer, and then onto printing. Having this opening here and being able to access the ESP32 directly without opening the case is one of the reasons I chose this case. I feel now it's a great time to introduce the sponsor of this video. Myself. I'm clearly the sponsor of this video. No one is sponsoring this dumb channel, but if you like what you see so far and you would like to support me, please click that like and subscribe button. It helps the channel tremendously. Now let's go back to the video. So I want to test again that everything works even after the assembly. So I plugged in the build. I'm starting to upload the code right now. And you can see right out of the bat that the device woke up and didn't detect any water, obviously because the sensor is outside. Now let's give it a little bit of time to go back to sleep. I'll move my hand in front of it. It woke up again and detected dry again. Now I'm just waiting for it to go back to sleep, putting the sensor in the water, making a movement in front of it. It woke up, it's wet. So now that I confirmed everything works, I didn't mess up anything, I'm just gonna put everything back the way it was supposed to be, and we can move ahead to the next step. And this is the part where I will configure Home Assistant to receive the message coming from the ESP32 through the MQTT topic. So the first thing to do is to go to the configurations and then automations page, create a new automation. I'm just gonna call it notify me when my plant is thirsty. And I will choose MQTT as a trigger. Now, the only thing you need to keep in mind here is to use the same topic that you configured into the secrets file that I mentioned before. So just make sure you copy paste the same text, because that's where the ESP32 will be sending the message, and that's where Home Assistant is expecting to read the message. The conditions part is interesting as well. If you want to add conditions, for example, you don't want to get any notifications during the night or during certain days. But I'll just leave it empty for this exercise. And now to the important part, the actions. I choose an action called call service, and the service I'm going to be calling is the notify service, and I choose the name of my Echo device. The message that I want my Echo device to play, which is gonna be please water me. I'm going to save, make sure the automation is enabled, and then run it just to give it a quick try.
Please water me.
And voila, it's working. And I was able to have Alexa play my message easily because I have this integration called Alexa Media Player. So make sure to have it installed beforehand, and I'll share the link in the description. Let's make sure the integration with Home Assistant is working. I'm gonna create a movement in front of it. It wakes up, connecting to Wi-Fi, send the message through MQTT.
Please water me.
And there you go. Now this build needs energy to be fully autonomous, and I'll be using this rechargeable LiPo battery, but I've done this in many videos before, so click on the pop-up banner to see how to solder the battery to the board with a connector. The battery is hooked up to the back, as you can see, and it's time for our build to rest in its final place. The soil moisture sensor will go into the soil, just like that. Yeah, looks good, but you might want to make it just a little bit discreet. Yeah, maybe that's better. And that's it. That's all there is to it. So just before I go, I want you guys to let me know in the comments if you want us to take this build a little bit further. Maybe receive text messages, maybe connect it to the cloud and have a database updated somewhere. Maybe even, you know what? Maybe even use a public API or a cloud API and then get more information about the weather, moisture, humidity, UV light. You probably have one of those plants that is really sensitive. So let us know in the comments your requests and how you want us to take this build, as I said, just a little bit further. And also make sure to hit that like button if you haven't already. Apparently the algorithm is all about likes these days. Catch you up guys in the next video. Be safe. you.